Yu-Gi-Oh's future is VR. Excuse me, my phone needs to be recharged. Recharged. I know you're sitting there probably thinking, how the hell this guy not a world famous rapper making millions of dollars? Putting a whole bunch of $100 bills to his ear but saying it's a phone. Because that's original. Not fucking going in interviews and talking about how much richer he is than I am. And me liking him more for it because it inspires me. You probably say, alright, enough of that. Alright, Yu-Gi-Oh's future is VR. And I'm not talking about Into the Brains. You know, and they go and fucking put their dual disc on and fucking takes them to the virtual world like this is Digimon. Now I'm talking about Yu-Gi-Oh's future actually being VR, the card game, the children's card game. Which I need to make another video about that. I don't know why Yu-Gi-Oh is called children's card game anyway. That shit is fucking complicated. Anyway. Shit, I can't even get grown adults to get into fucking Yu-Gi-Oh. I mean, they're not children. I know you think of a pedophile to probably hang out with children, but no. I hang out with grown folks like me. And I tell them I try to get them into this Yu-Gi-Oh game. People who've actually played Yu-Gi-Oh before when they were kids. And they just say it's too complicated. Yeah, this is a children's card game. You know, I'm getting off topic. Yu-Gi-Oh's future is VR. You saw that stupid video of some guy saying, I'm gonna draw a Pot of Greed. It makes you draw 3 cards, and then I draw again Pot of Greed. You draw 3 cards, and the guy's like, what are you talking about? Another stupid crap. But I do think Yu-Gi's future is definitely VR. Now we all know Konami's late to the party with everything and late to come up with the things that everyone else been doing for longest. How long was fucking Dual Network on? How many decade? It wasn't like over a decade. How long was that shit on the internet before Konami decided, instead of just releasing every random Yu-Gi-Oh game every other year for these consoles, why don't we just make a permanent one that's either online or an app? Of course, Dual Network I think was online on the internet for the longest fucking time. Not picture. But it was on there for the longest, and then by the time Konami even thought of hey, maybe we should come up with our own Dual Network, the freaking apps became big, iPhone been out, Android's right behind it, and then apps became the new big thing. And then it became a thing where then mobile gaming came out of nowhere, started taking over. So it became a thing where it's like, why don't we just make a mobile game that could also be played on, on your computer if you download the app or whatever the fuck. It doesn't have to be a thing where you go on the internet and go to the website or download something like Yu-Gi-Oh Pro or whatever. It could just be a thing where you just freaking go on app. They took down Dual Network, I remember, like a few years ago, and it was like a big deal and everything. They took it down, cease and desist letter. And now there's another one, and I forget what it's called, the Dual Book or some shit. And there's the new ones that came out since then, which I don't know why they haven't took those down. But it took it down because they wanted to build their own one, their own official one. That went nowhere. And then they eventually, I guess, created the Dual Generation app, which I found out about way later. So it shows how good Yu-Gi-Oh did of advertising that shit. They did a much better job advertising Duel Links, which is why it became as big as it is right now. And why they refuse to make any more games for the consoles or the PC because they're busy ranking up all the money in Duel Links. They released Duel Links at the right time. They released it right when they brought back that they did that Yu-Gi-Oh movie, The Dimension of the Duelist, whatever the fuck. They released that around the same time. It was only based on the original Yu-Gi-Oh, no the Yu-Gi-Oh. And that brought back a lot of people. Kind of like, it's like their version of Pokemon Go. Even though they already had Dual Generation. But Dual Generation was pretty much the last couple Yu-Gi games that came out, like Legacy of the Duelist and all that. It was basically those games just put into app form. But then Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, which is its own thing, own vibe. Only 3 cards, 3 spawn trap, 3 monsters, 3 spawn trap cards. It's very weird. Even now when I play it, it just feels weird. It doesn't feel like an actual Yu-Gi-Oh! It feels like a fucking bootleg Yu-Gi-Oh! game. But it is what it is, and shit, Duel Links become so popular, I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes the new formula where it's only 3 monsters and 3 spawn trap cards, which I don't like that. I like my 5 monsters, 5 spawn trap card zones, my fucking extra monster card zone, my pendulum card zone. God, this game is convoluted. Anyway, let's go to VR. That's clearly where it's going. Now, we know video games in general, that's where it's going, is VR. But America will probably already fall down, and China will have taken over by the time that technology even gets up par with that stuff. Before video games even get to par with VR, we're probably not gonna live to see it. We'll be lucky if our kids live to see it. But we're not gonna live to see it. We're gonna be old men, fucking battling whatever disease we have, trying to survive by the time this shit gets to snuff. But I think Yu-Gi-Oh! VR is gonna get to VR much quicker, much faster, much better. Now we know Konami, they don't get into things unless they know there's money to be made. And right now VR isn't really that popular because it's not that polished yet. Quite frankly, it's not that good yet. From a graphical standpoint and from a hey look, I feel nauseous because I move left and right standpoint of fucking VR. But VR, eventually that's where Yu-Gi-Oh! Is gonna go. You already see it going like that in the anime. I mean, we all would love to have dual discs that freaking show off big giant holograms in front of our faces in the middle of the freaking street, but you know that's way too much technology, too much power. Some billionaire company would have to want to do it, and why would they want to go do that shit? Especially as convoluted as Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. If they were to make a dual disc, they would have to only make the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, the original Yu-Gi-Oh! From the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Only make those monsters available and leave everything else out. Kind of like Duel Links. And then have to have their own special card that actually like is able to, scan through the system. So cards will have to actually be probably a little bit bigger, much more like thicker and stronger and all that shit. But that's a pipe dream. The more realistic thing is Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually going into VR. Like a Duel Links in VR or Dual Generation in VR or some kind of new whatever Yu-Gi-Oh! Into VR. That's more realistic compared to us shooting holograms out our ass in the middle of the street. That's why you see the Yu-Gi-Oh! Show going in that direction. Ever since Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, we've been going in that direction. Because Yu-Gi-Oh! And GA, first Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yu-Gi-Oh! GX were kind of like, same thing. Then 5Ds was like motorcycles with card games, which is fucking stupid. That was the dumbest part about 5Ds. Everyone likes 5D series, their favorite. That's the worst part of 5Ds, is stupid motorcycles. It almost put me off the whole series. Like, really? Motorcycles? You know how hard it is to drive a motorcycle and not get crashed? All it takes is one fucking false move, one looking the wrong way, one not paying attention, 1 second of not paying attention to a motorcycle, and you're getting sent flying 10 feet in the air head first. You know how easy it is to kill yourself on a motorcycle? We're gonna play a fucking hard, concentrated, complicated card game while we're doing it. Why don't we play chess while we're driving while we're at it? Yeah, have a chessboard right next to your wheel and just fucking play that while you're driving. Oh, make sure you turn. Stupid. Anyway. But VR is definitely the direction to go. And ever since Zexal, we've been kind of going at the direction where they're like, hey, was it Zexal really? No, it wasn't Zexal. It was really Arc V. Where like it turns the whole world around them into, virtual. They kind of did it with Zexal where like the hologram turns everything, into hard matter, whatever the hell. And they kind of went even further with that with Arc V. But it's down to Vrains that really was into that. Where you have to go into the Vrains world in order to have monsters come out and fucking attack you and all that stuff. That's where Yu-Gi-Oh! Is heading to. And I'm not saying we're heading into Vrains world, but I'm talking about we're heading into that world where we're going to be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In VR. It's going to be more, it's going to feel more like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. Put the helmet on. It's going to be probably not holographic monsters, but the Duel Links version where like the picture of the monster just comes out. And kind of like turn-based. Kind of like turn-based monsters. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh! Could at least, if they start the VR thing, they could kind of do it like how Pokemon did, the original 150 Pokemon. Have just, a few 150 monsters from the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Or something. Just stand there, look stupid. And then make his arm just move into a swipe. And then then all the monster gets destroyed. It goes, and then turns into a million pieces. I mean, it's not that hard. Especially if they do it in VR. I do think that's where we're going next. I'm not saying the very next Yu-Gi-Oh! Game after Duel Links is going to be VR, but we're heading there. Especially as the PS5 comes out. As the PlayStation 5 comes out and the VR becomes more prevalent. Because the VR is going to be, at least the rumors say, the VR is going to be built in the PlayStation 5. And we already see Nintendo dipping their, toes in the water of VR with their Labo bullshit. And Xbox is there kind of not doing anything. But anyway, they're eventually going to get into it too. Yu-Gi-Oh's gonna want to dip their hands in the VR. They're gonna create some game. I know Konami is not the one to spearhead, anything. They're gonna wait until some VR becomes more bigger. A few popular games comes out, makes a lot of money in VR. A couple mobile games or whatever become big in VR. Then they're all of a sudden gonna go make a VR game. So I'm not saying it's gonna happen anytime soon, but I'm saying it's gonna happen. And probably fans are gonna probably make a own kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Network, Yu-Gi-Oh! Book, YGO kind of thing in the VR system before Konami ever does it. The fans are gonna make a good VR Yu-Gi-Oh! Game before Konami even fucking decides to do it. And Konami's gonna wait to see if it actually makes money, is actually popular, a lot of people actually into it before they actually dip their toes in it. But that's my prediction. Yu-Gi-Oh! VR, that's the next step. We're gonna no more fucking playing a card game there like it's a fucking chess game. We're gonna be fucking championships are gonna be done with people having a VR set, put it on their head, and they're gonna go into it and we're gonna play it like that. It is the future. It has to be that way. It's the only realistic way we're gonna see our holographic monsters fucking destroy all the holographic monsters. That's what got me into Yu-Gi-Oh! Seeing cool, giant, weird, destructive monsters fucking come out of, the card and just fucking attack your opponent directly or destroy his monster. Being able to act a spell trap card to stop him from bottom and whip your ass. Come on, this is what we love Yu-Gi-Oh! For. And now that we have Duel Links the way it is, I do see that Yu-Gi-Oh! VR is the next step. It's gonna be a beautiful thing. We're not gonna get the holographic monsters playing in the playing in the street like we want to. I keep saying street, you can play in the grass, you can play inside of a fucking, table. Even though the holograms will be a lot bigger than that, still. I think VR is as close as we're ever gonna get to playing the Yu-Gi-Oh! The way we see it in the show. And at least for our lifetime, before all of us hits the ground and fucking passes away on this planet, I think that's as close as we're ever gonna get to getting the Yu-Gi-Oh! We want from the show. Is Yu-Gi-Oh! VR. And once it does come out and does happen, it's as good as it's gonna get. As good as we're gonna be able to get it. And we'll just have to enjoy it for what it is. And I just can't wait till when it comes out. I know it's coming. This is Attack Mo switching back to the fence and when I'm out. Peace.